Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's very windy out here and it is cold. It's March 8th, 2025. I think this video may have started with me actually working on a problem with it overheating, or what I thought was an overheating problem. So for those of you who are new to the channel and haven't seen my other videos, this is my 2008 JCB MIDI backhoe. And it's a backhoe loader that's kind of like a small backhoe that allows you to put skid steer attachments on the front, which is kind of neat. It's got a detachable backhoe in the back. It's four-wheel drive. It's a nice little machine. I bought it from an estate. Person had passed away, was in his 90s. The machine hadn't run for several years. I went through, you can see some of my other videos, I went through some stuff, getting the engine running, getting it, it was all gummed up, the diesel, the old diesel in there. Gummed up the injectors and the injector pump. Anyways, I got the motor running really good and everything, but I noticed when I first bought it that after driving it for a while, it would start to slow down. And then it progressively got worse. And then it got to the point where if I start it and I drive it, you can't drive it very far at all before it just stops moving. This uses it's almost like a hydrostatic transmission. It's a hydraulic transmission. There's no gear shift lever to speak of. There's a switch on the console for high and low. That activates a solenoid valve, so that will activate whether or not it goes into high speed or low speed. And just basically the more throttle you give it, the faster it's going to go type of situation. Because of the lack of maintenance that was done on this thing from its sitting, I suspect at this point I may have a problem with the filters and or the fluid. Last thing I tried on this was I had noticed that it seemed like I could feel a lot of heat coming off of the engine. There's no temperature gauge on the dashboard to tell me whether or not it was overheating. But just for the heck of it, I pulled the thermostat out so that in case it was a thermostat stuck closed kind of problem or something like that that was causing the issue, that didn't make any difference. So now I'm going to try changing the fluid, changing the filters. If that doesn't work, I may end up having to bite the bullet and actually bring this into a service center to get it serviced, which I am not looking forward to that possibility. A, it would entail me moving the machine there, which is kind of a pain in the butt. And secondly, more importantly, I have no reason to believe that it wouldn't be very expensive to repair. In fact, if they tell me that I need the transmission rebuilt, it'll be thousands and thousands of dollars. And at that point, I will be better off actually cutting my losses and just unloading the machine as is, taking a loss on it, and buying something else, which I really don't want to do. So if any of you guys have experience with these particular machines, these JCBs and these type of transmissions, and you want to take pity on me, you're probably going to want to know a little bit more detail about it. So you can ask me in the comments. What I can tell you is this. It definitely seemed like as it heated up, that's when the problem would start. And when you first start it cold, it moves really well. It seems to have power. It seems to move with some power. I think it has some breakout force. So it's once it heats up that things start to go pear-shaped. The other thing that I noticed from day one, early on, was there was an unusual noise coming out of almost like the hydraulic system, for lack of a better term, and it was kind of hard to describe. It was almost like a slight noise, and interestingly enough, if I would step down lightly on one of the brake pedals, either of the brake pedals, when I would step on it lightly, the sound would go away. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. I don't know whether or not there could be a problem where the brakes are dragging and that's actually causing it to overheat and that's what's making it slow down. What I do know is it's gotten much worse since I've had it, and the noise that I was talking about doesn't seem to be happening anymore. So go figure. I've already started draining the fluid, and before I finish draining it, I wanted to get the camera out here so I could show you guys what the fluid looks like. The stream of fluid coming out of the bottom of the tank from the drain plug is probably about 1.5 inches in diameter, and when you look through it as it's draining, it looks like the color of honey. You can actually see through it. It's not black, it's not white like it's terribly contaminated with water. It's just dark. Once it collects in the bucket, then it gets really dark, and I'll show you. So hopefully you can see that color. So with that little bit in there, it actually looks fairly clear. The other thing I am noticing is there's a lot of these little black flecks or black little debris, but they're not hard. They're almost like soot, and they pretty much just deteriorate when you touch them. Nothing hard. It's not metal. It's not like chunks of something like lining off of clutch discs or something like that. Let me show you what that fluid looks like once we fill that container. So that's what it looks like once you get to a depth of like 6 inches in that bucket right there. So it's yeah, I would describe it as brown. It's funny, it doesn't look that bad on the way out. See what I mean? It's got a nice amber color to it. Honestly, to me, it doesn't look much different there than the way it does when it comes out of the new jug. Looks like there's a magnet on the bottom of the drain plug here, so we'll take a good close look at that in a minute. At first glance, I don't see anything on it. So I don't want to pay full list price for the filters for this thing because there's a possibility that it might not help at all, and I might end up having to junk the machine or sell it off. So I actually went on eBay and I scoured the listings and was able to find some new old stock filters and got really good deals on these. So I ended up determining that there are 3 filters involved in this hydraulic system. One of which, this filter here, this big spin-on filter, is actually on the bottom of the transmission. And then there are 2 other filters that I believe are on the actual hydraulic reservoir itself. So that's that filter. And honestly, I don't remember where this filter is even located. So I'll have to consult the manual. But I mean, I know it's been a while since I ordered these. I ordered these in, late fall, so I don't remember where they go. But another big clue as far as diagnosing the problem with this machine is that even when it warms up and it stops moving, and it won't move anymore, the hydraulics still seem to work perfectly fine. The backhoe, the loader. So that kind of gives me a clue. That makes me think that the culprit's probably not going to be one of these filters like this that would be on the suction line. Because I would think that there would be a problem with the hydraulic, all the hydraulics working, if that was the case. But it could be this filter. But what bothers me is if it was a problem with this filter being clogged, why doesn't it just not move well at all right from the start? So that leads me to my next possible guess, which is that the fluid itself is the problem. I was reading online about something called shear, which is a property that hydraulic fluid used in transmissions has, and that can, if the hydraulic fluid becomes overheated or burnt, that property can go away and cause problems. I don't know. Which brings me to the next subject. What kind of fluid did I get to replace this? Well, the fluid that's specified for the JCB backhoe is a JCB part number, and I've searched high and low on the internet to try and find something that is out there on the market, aftermarket, that actually says it meets the specifications for the JCB. I can't find anything. And I've gone on numerous forums, and there seems to be a lot of difference of opinion on what you can and can't use in this machine. That being said, this is what I settled on. This is Traveler brand, which is a Tractor Supply brand. It's not a premium fluid by any means, but it's still not cheap. This cost me $60 for 5 gallons. I think it was 60. I think it was $65 for 5 gallons. And I ended up buying 20 gallons because I'm pretty sure I'm going to use all of that on this fluid change. I'm not doing a complete fluid change. I'm not flushing out all the lines. And, you know, so a lot of the fluid that's in the hydraulic system, like what's sitting in the cylinders right now and what's sitting in a lot of these lines right now, is going to end up mixing with whatever I put in here. It's not ideal, but I just don't have the kind of equipment to recycle this old fluid and get rid of it and handle it. You know, if you own a professional shop and you're doing this all the time, you're going to be using 55-gallon drums, you're going to have transfer pumps, you're going to have all kinds of different tricks to do this. So long story short, I ended up going with this particular type of Traveler fluid. It's a universal premium tractor fluid, trans/hydraulic. So they have a cheaper fluid that just says hydraulic. There's actually a couple of different grades of cheaper fluid that are just hydraulic. And those fluids are for tractors, backhoes, and other equipment where the hydraulic system is only used to run the cylinders, the hydraulic cylinders, and is isolated completely from the transmission. Like on the old Oliver, the hydraulic system runs just the backhoe and the loader. The transmission has a completely separate system. This fluid says that it meets J20C requirements, which is for John Deere tractors with hydrostatic drives, so, or hydraulic transmissions. So I'm hopeful this will be okay to use in this machine. All right, it's starting to get dark out there, and it's pretty cold today. It's supposed to be a little more mild tomorrow, so I'll finish putting the so I'll put those new filters in tomorrow, but I just wanted to come down here in the shop and get a good look at this magnet on this drain plug. Alright, so there was something on there. Definitely going to need a new O-ring, that's for sure. It's shredded. Yeah, there's a little bit of grittiness in there. Well, I don't like this. Watch what happens when I take this magnet and put it near my stain. There's definitely some ferrous material in that. Alright, it's the next day. It's sunny. It's practically a heat wave, 38 degrees. Anyways, with the less wind, it's actually very tolerable. So I'm back to work on this filter change project. And the first filter I'm going to go after is what's called the suction strainer. So I am now underneath the machine, and we're looking at the back side of the hydraulic filter. There's the drain plug. So let's see, the drain plug's out of frame, but you get the gist. This big, huge rubber line right here is the suction line. So this is the return. Fluid coming out of the tank goes, actually I shouldn't have said return. The fluid is pulled out of the tank on this line to go to the main hydraulic pump. So because this line is the suction line, it's not under pressure. So that's why they can just have it held on to that fitting with just regular hose clamps. As opposed to, like, say this line right here would be a high pressure line. That's probably a return line. Fluid coming back from the system, going back into the tank, not positive. And then we have two other lines over here that are actually kind of out of frame a little bit, but those probably go to that internal filter, which we'll get to in a moment. So for starters, I need to loosen up those two clamps and pull this hose off, and I've got to have my drain bucket underneath here just in case there's still any fluid left in this line. Most of it should have run down into the tank, and I already drained the tank. But I put the plug back in overnight, so anything that drained in there from overnight is going to be in there. I got to get that out of there first. So that's interesting. When I took this drain plug out, I wish I had the video rolling. You guys could have seen it. there is actually a burst of pressure that came out of there. I'm kind of surprised because there's a breather integral to the filler cap. The cap on the filler spout on top of the tank has a breather built into it, and that's supposed to equalize pressure in the tank. Now, it might be possible that the breather only works in one direction, but it would, if that was the case, I would think it would let pressure out. So I wonder if there's a problem with that breather, if that could be contributing to my issues. I don't know. So I got the new suction strainer out so I could look at it. So this is what it looks like. It's just basically a wire screen with ribs to support it. And that actually goes right into the tank right here and screws in as an O-ring. Took it out ahead of time so that way I would know what size wrench I would need to get this out. And I'm going to use one of my pipe wrenches because I don't have anything large enough. I don't have an open end wrench large enough to fit on that, or a crow's foot or anything like that. So because this T is right here, and this T goes into a line that isn't going to want to compress, it's very difficult for me to get this to want to move this way. But I guess I could just fold this T, I mean this elbow. Yeah, that's the trick. Okay. Of course, now the elbow is right in the way from me unscrewing this and letting it back out. Well, let's push down far enough to clear that, and just barely, I guess. All right, I'm not caring for this pipe wrench deal. I can do better, especially now I got it broken free. It wasn't that tight, which makes sense. It's only a plastic fitting. All right, I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I wish I could tell you the part number of these funky channel locks that I got years ago, because they are indispensable. And I've never seen them like on the shelf in like, you know, Home Depot or a hardware store or whatever. So they're special. Yeah, I know. I'm using them backwards. Maybe these Irwin vice grip channel lock type pliers would be, well, I guess they're not channel locks if they're Irwin vice grip, right? Oh yeah, these, I think are gonna be better. Yeah. Oh yeah. Come on, yeah. So, can I get on the back side and put these on correctly? I guess I can. Just occurred to me that I should loosen the other hose clamp on the other end of this 90-degree deal, which will allow me to turn this. Actually, it just allow me to take it off completely. Although, is that going to drip all over me? Hey, what's this spring? What the hell's the purpose of this spring? What the heck? Anybody know why they would put this really long coiled spring inside this hose? Is this to keep this from kinking? Because if it is, it really wasn't sticking into this very far. Well, anyways, get them out of my way. Ah, now we're cooking. There we go. Oh, almost completely undone. I think it's loose enough I can get it with my hands now. The O-ring's pretty shredded, but that's okay. The new filter came with a new O-ring. Well, this doesn't look bad at all. Hell, this thing looks new. It wasn't super expensive, so luckily, like I said, I bought it off of eBay. New old stock. So I'm going to resist the temptation to put any Teflon tape, thread sealant tape, or any thread sealant or anything like that on these plastic threads. This is not a pipe taper. It doesn't get tighter as you screw it in further. All of the sealing that takes place to keep this from leaking has nothing to do with the threads. It has to do with this O-ring being squashed between this flange and this surface here. So if I put thread sealant on here, I run the risk of actually creating a situation where the thread tolerance then becomes so tight that when I screw this in, I could crack it. It's tough plastic, but it is plastic. You can see that it never got tighter as I screwed it in, and that's because it is not a tapered thread. It's not national pipe thread or any other kind of taper. I actually have the manual, and the manual may very well say something about a torque specification for tightening this, but I have no idea what it would be, and I have no way of measuring that, so I'm just going to snug it up good. Now if I find that this starts leaking later, I can always come back and just loosen up the hose clamps and give this a little bit more of a turn. That's about as far as I think I want to push it. I'd rather have to deal with a little leak and come back and tighten it up later than deal with cracking this and having to wait for a new one to come in. If I can even find another cheap one. Honestly, if I ended up cracking this one, I would probably put that old one right back in, because like I said, it looks pretty clean. We'll look at it a little more closely in the light, but this is filthy. I think I'm going to clean this up while I have it out. If for no other reason, just to keep dirt from falling inside of it. Alright, it's not spotless, but I made sure it's clean all the way on the inside. So I don't know what to think about this spring. It was hanging out probably about that much. I mean, I could actually push it all the way in, or I could pull it even further out. Yeah. Just leave it about like that. Same goes for these hose clamps. Since this line's not under pressure, or much pressure, I mean, when it's not running, it's under the pressure of the weight of all of the hydraulic fluid in that tank, but static pressure. I'm not going to torque down on these things too much. If they're leaking, I'll snug them up later. Well, I think I can put my drain plug back in now. I got to go find an O-ring to replace the O-ring that was on there. It's all shredded. And then once I get the drain plug back in, I can reposition the bucket underneath this transmission filter. Figure as long as I'm underneath here, I'll do that one next. Yeah, and the sun went in and the wind came back. So much for the mild weather. So I'll have to reposition the camera, but that's the filter I'm dealing with next. That looks like it hasn't been replaced in a while. So I just checked my records. This filter I got for $19, but then there was shipping and tax, made it $30.69 for that filter. I have no idea how much that filter would have cost me at the dealership if I had ordered it from one. I didn't bother because it seemed like there was so many places on eBay that had this filter, and it all ended up working out to be about $30 for the best price. So now that I've got the filter out in the sunlight, because the sun came back out, I can actually see that it does have some stuff in it. It's not badly clogged, but it did do its job and trap some crud. But I don't see anything. Good news is I don't see any metal. In fact, I don't really see that much interesting at all. And when I hold it up to the light,
I could still see through the screen really easily, so this probably would have still been okay. On this side we got more crud. So this would have been the side that must have been facing the bottom of the tank. Just in case anybody was wondering, that's the part number for this suction strainer filter.
All right, let's see what kind of a fight this filter can put up.
Oh, piece of cake. This filter's part number is a 32/909000. It's actually getting harder. What's this? What's the deal with this thing? Come on, you stinking... Oh, finally. That's weird. What the hell? Why is it coming off at an angle? Oh, Jesus. Something about the way that filter was on there just doesn't seem right. Well, while I get the camera set up for this angle, I'm going to install the new filter. And then we'll get that old filter out in the light and take a look at it, see if we can see what the hell that was all about. So I took that filter number, the JCB number, and I confirmed it was the correct filter. So I know that somebody put the right filter on last time they changed that filter, if they ever did change it. I don't think it's the original. Anyways, I found out that crossed to some other numbers. One of the numbers it crossed to was this Fairy, F-A-I-R-E-Y, Fairy Arlon Charge Guard filter. I never heard of this brand of filter before, but I looked it up online and it actually is a good quality filter. And so this is a CG, for Charge Guard, 46-CC16. I ended up finding somebody who had this new old stock one of these for $7. And then whatever it was they charged for shipping, but that was a heck of a deal on this filter. So I snagged it. I would have bought two if they had to, but this was the last one that they had, unfortunately. So I'm just going to put a little oil on the O-ring. Now it does say on the side of the filter, it actually tells you to hand tighten this, bring it up to where it snugs up, and then turn it a half turn. So this filter should just, see how this filter goes on? That's how that filter should have come off. Once I broke it free, that filter should have just zipped off. That's how that should be. So that tells me that fitting up there in the bulkhead is actually good, which is great news. So now what I want to do is I want to give it a half turn, and then later I'll have to check it for leaks. Now I'd like to grip it with something, so let me get something to wipe this off, and so I can get grip better. And I'm going to get my rubber strap wrench. In the past I've kind of like just without resisting temptation, I just grab the pliers and put it on here. But what I found happens is I end up scratching the paint on these filters, the enamel, and then that spot will rust. And I actually even had a filter that actually developed a leak right where it rusted. That was because a lot of the modern filters have such thin cases now. I could see the date code inside this filter. This filter was actually made in 2001 and sat on somebody's shelf for over 20 years till I came along and bought it. Actually, I think I can just use this old sock. This old sock of mine. This old sock of mine, been worn 1,000 times. That's good. Again, I'll check for leaks later. If it's leaking, I'll snug it up more. All right, let's take a look at this filter. Well, what the hell's that? Huh. Uh-oh. What is this part? Well, it doesn't want to come out of the filter. This didn't exist in the other filter. This doesn't have a hole in the... It's like a cup. Is that like a check valve? In this orientation, this doesn't seem to have a point. It actually seems like it's damaged. No, maybe not. Well, this won't come out of the filter. So I'm confident that this isn't a piece that I was supposed to take out of this filter and install in a new one. Because there's no way I can get this out. It won't fit past that point. I don't know if this is some kind of a check valve. Like an anti-drain back valve, but that doesn't make sense either, because once it gets passed down inside here to a certain point, it'll fall in, and it could easily just get out of position. That's weird. There's a spring in there. There's got to be some kind of a check valve. Maybe it's a bypass valve, so if the filter gets too clogged, it could still allow fluid to flow through. But if that's the case, I don't understand how the hell it would work. It's got no hole in the bottom of it here. It's like a cup. Well, let's see if it fits in the basket. Another thing I want to see if I can try and address is, this is the sight glass that is supposed to be used to tell me whether or not the fluid level is correct in the tank here for the hydraulic reservoir. And this plastic is all like, it's all fogged up from age. And I'm wondering whether or not I can actually maybe try and polish this so that I can actually see it, because it's very difficult to see if there's a proper amount of fluid in here. It almost appears to me like this just screws into the tank. So I'm hoping maybe I can just unscrew this. I may regret messing with this. I don't have a metric socket. I'm sure this is probably metric. I don't have a metric socket large enough to fit that. And it looks like 1 7/8 is just a slight bit too small, so I think that is going to be metric. And the next size up I have is 2 inch. Boy, well, this is either going to work or it's going to round over the corners on that thing. Like I said, I may regret trying this. Man, yeah, that's starting to dig into that. I don't know how they put that in there. I don't know if they put some kind of adhesive on the threads before they put it in there, like a Loctite or what, but that does not want to come out. I can feel this breaker bar flexing. Nope, just slipped. Well, I'm not going to try taking that out. Yeah, give you a better look at what I'm dealing with. So I've got this plastic polish for removing fine scratches and plastics. I bought this at the motorcycle shop. I forgot exactly what I ended up using it on, but I figure I'll give this a try. I just have to let that dry and then buff it off. I don't know. That looks different at all. Yeah, it might be. I can't tell if that's better or not. At least now I can see the red dot. I think I can see it better. Well, let me try one more application. Doesn't feel as gritty. So I think a lot of that fogginess that still remains might be on the back side of the glass. And I don't think it's glass. I think it's plastic. You can see there's a little bit of fluid trapped in there right now, but the way this is supposed to work is the fluid flows in from the back, and when the fluid level gets up to this point, even with the dot, that's when you know you've got enough fluid. I think that's as good as it's going to get. It definitely feels smoother.
All right, so the last filter I have to deal with is actually under here. So you get to take out these 6 bolts and remove this cover, and there's an assembly that actually comes out of here, and then from the assembly you remove the filter. It would be pretty easy except for the fact that these hoses are all in the way. So it looks to me like the way to tackle this is going to be, I think if I undo these clamps on these hoses, I can move these hoses out of the way. I can get to a lot of them without moving anything. This 13 millimeter, I can't get a socket in there. I'll have to grab a wrench. So I had to undo both of these clamps, this upper one too, because I realized that even if I get this plate off, I'm not going to be able to pull anything up and out of this this well with these hoses in the way. So I'm hoping now that I get this upper clamp off, maybe this hose will actually come up and out of the way. Man, the engineers at JCB really must be a hateful bunch. Oh yeah, so there's a spring under here. And actually, it looks to me like the whole filter is just coming out of the housing, so it looks like I don't need to take the housing out. So the manual that I purchased online actually gives you instructions on how to change this filter. They make it sound like that whole assembly comes out and then the filter comes out from the assembly, and you clean the assembly. You know, it's almost like a housing. This almost appears to me like this filter's just coming out on its own without the other part. I don't know if that's going to be good for me or not. Or maybe it is. Let's see. So now I think I can just get these hoses out of the way enough. Get the assembly. Oh no, here it is. The whole thing's coming out. Yeah, so it's a little bucket, almost like a deal here. See? And then the idea is you take this little metal part and give this a turn of 90 degrees, and this disengages from here. That filter didn't look too bad either. You know, I was thinking about it. I'm wondering whether or not it's possible that that cartridge filter that I replaced, that piece that was floating around in there, loose, I wonder if that was getting like pushed up into a position where it would block the flow of fluid. Why that would only happen when it got hot, I don't know. I mean, that would be nice if it turned out that's all it was. All right, so I cleaned out that housing. Here's the new filter. It's got a different color to it of the filter media. Other than that, it's identical. But the funny thing is, this little metal bail or handle, the new filter didn't come with one, so I had to take the old one off the original filter. If anybody's curious, this filter says it's made in Germany. At first, it looked like this was blocked off completely. On the original filter, this is red. And what this is this is actually, there's a very strong spring in there that I have to push down against to get that to open. So that's a check valve. And it's like, that's kind of wild. The amount of pressure that would have to go through there to push that open, you would think it'd be enough to blow this plastic apart, but apparently not. And just like the original filter, it's got almost like a bayonet or a hook type deal here. So it's funny because
the instructions said that you would need to twist this to get this to come out of here. But looking down inside there, there's nothing inside there this will hook to. So I can put this down in here. There we go, okay, right? But I could turn this, oh wait a minute. Maybe there is something in there that it hooks to. Yeah, see it hooks and then it's all crooked. What the hell's the deal with that? It's like it's engaging on one side but not on the other. I mean, that's the funny part, is that other filter, when I opened this up, that other filter didn't seem to be locked in like it should have been either. I just grabbed the original filter again just for the heck of it. If I put this original filter in there, I could just turn it and turn it and turn it, and it doesn't engage anything down there. It's not locking into anything. It looks like it's got the same hooks. All right, I'm not positive, but I think that is locked in there, kind of. By pulling it hard, I can pop it out, but I'm probably just pulling it right over the little nubs that are in there that I can't even see them, whatever it is that those two areas that are supposed to lock onto. I can't get my hand down there to feel them, so you can't get in through this way to feel them either. This is actually offset, this opening. So I don't know, I'm guessing it doesn't matter which way this goes in, because it looks like that's just this is just open right to the tank. So this must be just, the fluid just flows right out of here. So I think I should be able to just pop this back in. Yeah. Come on, you stinker. And then the spring must just go right down on top of that. This is a genuine JCB filter, but it came with no gasket or anything to replace that gasket on the top, so I'm just going to end up reusing it. Reusing the old one. This is a 32/925346. So I guess when you're replacing this filter, there must be probably another part number that gets you that gasket. And then each one of these bolts has this little washer with a little rubber gasket built into it. Okay, all the filters are replaced. Now I just need to start putting some fluid in. Oh, it's better to have the camera rolling for that one. You guys would have got a chuckle out of that. Quite frankly, I'm a little PO'd about it, because I lifted the bucket up to start pouring it into the tank, and the handle came off. I caught it before I completely dropped it, but I still ended up spilling a good sized amount of it all over the damn tank and onto the ground here. And you can see it's this cheap junk handle they put on here. Wasn't able to handle the weight. It literally pulled right out. The holes on here. Right there. That's bent. So yeah, I'm not too happy about that. So I'm about halfway through my third bucket, and the level is almost there. So I think I'm going to start the engine and let it run a little bit, and then top it off. Well, I ran it for like 10 seconds, and the level dropped pretty quick, so I'm going to add more. Ready to take it for a test drive. So that whirring sound that I talked about at the beginning of the video here, that's back. Maybe it wasn't gone, but I thought it disappeared. So I don't know if you can hear it over the engine sound, but it's a definite like whirring sound coming from the transmission hydraulic pump area, I guess, directly underneath the operator's seat. And I believe when I touch the brake pedals, it'll go away. So I've just depressed the brake pedals and it has gone away. So oddly enough, that's the other thing that's kind of weird. I've got the two pedals, I've got the bar that separates the left and the right pedal out. In other words, there's a thing you can latch over so that when you hit one pedal, both pedals go down. So I've got it set up now so I can independently actuate each brake pedal. If I hit the left pedal, it doesn't go down far, and the sound doesn't go away. If I hit the right pedal, I press the right pedal down, the sound goes away, and the pedal seems to go down further. Let's see if I can show you that. So here's the right pedal. See how far that goes down compared to this pedal? Probably that deep. Your fingers. And the sound goes away. Watch this pedal. Doesn't go down as far, and the sound doesn't go away. I wonder if I've got a brake that's hanging up. Well, let's try and take it for a drive and see what happens. Down. I'm using the hand throttle, so I haven't changed the throttle position, but it seems like it's slowing down. I think I can feel that heat coming off the engine again, too. Try to give it a little more throttle so it'll move faster. High range. Oh, way too slow. Put it back in low range. There's no change. Yeah, it's starting to crawl. Right there, and it's barely moving. Alright, so I'm shutting it down so it'll cool off enough, or let it cool off some, and once it cools off it'll start moving again, and then I can start limping it back to the house. But this problem is not solved because it's doing the same exact thing it was doing before I changed any of those three filters and the fluid. So it's not filters, it's not fluid. Something else is going on here, and I don't know what. Alright, it's only been about 10 minutes. That might not have been enough time for it to have cooled down enough to let me move it, but let's see what happens. That's moving again.
but it didn't seem to make much difference. Slowing down again. That's barely moving. I'm just going to shut it off here and move it back to the house on another day. Yeah, this really bites. I really was looking forward to using this machine this spring. I've got quite a few projects I had planned for it, and now it looks like it's not going to be useful to me. Well, if there's any JCB mechanics out there, have any suggestions, I'm all ears. I appreciate it. Take care. I guess we'll close this video out at this point. Thanks for watching.